Nigel Farage could win Reform UK as many as 4 seats at the general election, says YouGov. We're going to read into this exclusive from The Independent, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from The Independent with the headline that Nigel Farage could win Reform UK as many as 4 seats at the general election, says YouGov. The exclusive reveals that Nigel Farage's decision to stand could see Reform complete for seats in several constituencies, says a pollster. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Nigel Farage is back. Now, I've covered this obviously on a live stream already, but obviously many people have been searching up Nigel Farage and been looking at the video that I posted more than 2 weeks ago where Nigel Farage ruled out standing as a candidate for the MP, and obviously he done a U-turn and for some reason a lot of idiots decided to click on that video and comment saying that he's done a U-turn when yes he has. That was more than 2 weeks ago. Obviously you didn't see the time and date that it was posted. Thank you for notifying me of that. Am I taking that video down? No, I just turned off the comments because I was sick and tired of telling people, and I've already put an exclaimer at the top of it saying that yes, it has been updated since then. But that was the position where he was 2 weeks ago. But this is the position where he is now. He's the leader of Reform UK. He's running for the seat in Clacton on Sea, and there's lots of questions, obviously. So first of all, why do we think he's running? Now, I would absolutely, first and foremost, obviously, the reason why, there's a couple of reasons why I think he's running. So one of the first things is he can still go to, if he doesn't win his seat, he can still participate in the American elections alongside Donald Trump. And I think even if he wins the seat, I can still see him bunging off to America to help Donald Trump as well. Even though he's not needed there, guys. Even though he's not needed, I can see him still doing that. Which I think, which obviously would be a displacement to the people of Clacton on Sea. Will he do something for the people of Clacton? I don't know. I'm very sceptical of that. And then this comes to the thing about him possibly he could gain a seat here, winning as many as 4 seats. It says YouGov. Now the fact that YouGov have said this does, for me, raises really I'm quite very surprised that they could win as many seats as potentially the Greens at this general election. Really does show that, because let's be very clear here, there's a lot of disgruntled voters out there, a lot of undecided, and many from the right who are not happy with the Conservatives, and many on the left who are not happy with the Labour Party, many in the centre who are not happy with either party, without a shadow of a doubt, because Labour have not been clear enough about some of their policies. The Conservatives, well, their 14 years of being in power have spoken for themselves. So there is a great deal of desire and need for change. People want change, but they don't want it in the form of the Conservatives, and they don't want it in Labour because some people want something different, you know. And I think when I look back in 2010, when we had the coalition government, people actually had some hope and prospects because of Liberal Democrats getting into power, because it was different. It was a different part. It was a coalition. It wasn't just the Conservatives. It was a case of there was something there for people to look at. There was another party who could hold the Conservatives to account. Obviously, that didn't happen. But at the time, it gave people optimism about the future, about those who felt let down by Labour, regardless of whether you believed in Labour or not. People felt let down by Gordon Brown, the financial crisis and all that kind of stuff, even though Gordon Brown did his part in that. People were still sceptical about the Conservatives back then, even though the Conservatives won a lot of it, won a lot of seats and whatnot. Nick Clegg and the Lib Dems appealed to people. And that platform, those television debates really, really were the key points here. And I do think that because Nigel Farage is now the leader of Reform, because he's running as an MP, he will now have more airtime, as if he didn't already have enough airtime. He's now going to have even more airtime. He's going to be everywhere. He's going to be on radios. He's going to be in newspapers. He's going to be on TV. And we are not going to stop talking about him. Now, I'm going to try not to talk non-stop about him on this channel because I want to give all the parties plenty of coverage here on the channel because I think it's right in doing so, whether you agree or fundamentally disagree with any of the political parties. Greens, Lib Dems, Labour, Conservatives, they all should be given their fair share here in England. I'm not specifically targeting Wales or Scotland. I'm going to, but if somebody wants me to do more on Wales, maybe I might do that. If people really want that. But Scotland, I always leave to the Two Davies YouTube channel. So I always say, if you want to know what's going on with Scottish politics in the run up to the general election, do check out youtube.com/the Two Davies, and they will give you the best info and insight on what's happening up there in terms of Scottish politics, is what I always say there. But coming back to Nigel Farage here, do I first of all, do I think he can win the seat on Clacton-on-Sea? I do think it is a very strong possibility he can do. I also think the Conservative candidate can still potentially hold on to his seat. I cannot for the life of me see Labour winning this in any way, shape or form because of how strong of a Brexit view people have here. There is very much an area where Nigel Farage could win. But the problem is that Nigel Farage has ran so many times and he's always found himself coming up short. Is he going to come up short again here is the question. And that's the thing, what I think is. He had quite a big crowd here in Clacton when he arrived. There yesterday at the time of this recording. But is he going to have the numbers to win it outright? That is the question that we have to ask. And what are these other 4 seats that YouGov are saying here that could potentially be the difference makers for reform? I'm not sure. But what I do know is that either way, before and after Nigel Farage stepping in, Sunak is done. And we know it. Let's read into this, you guys. So Nigel Farage's decision to stand as an MP and take over as a party leader could change Reform UK's chances of winning seats in the general election, says polling firm YouGov. Reform was on course to come out of this election empty-handed according to forecasts on Monday. But the data release came hours before the Independent broke the news that Nigel Farage had decided to stand as the party's candidate in Clacton, Essex. According to YouGov's Director of Political Analysis, Patrick English, the announcement significantly increases the odds that Reform could win at least 1 seat, even up to 4. He told The Independent, I do think that Farage's intervening significantly increases the odds of Reform UK winning one, perhaps even 2 seats in Westminster. You might even put an upper band on 4 on that, depending on what happens between now and July the 4th. Professor Sir John Curtis, one of the biggest polling analysts as well, he has also said that this will definitely incentivize more people to vote for Reform and get more galvanization around that. And I do agree with Sir John Curtis. I don't recall him saying about whether or not Reform will win seats or not. We'll have to wait and see on that as well. 1, even up to 4. If they win at least 1 seat, this is the 1 seat I think they will win. Is Richard Tice big enough and popular enough to win in his seat? I don't think he is, if I'm honest. And he kind of got sidelined. I mean, I literally did a political analysis of what could be in their Reform's manifesto around, and obviously Richard Tice was the leader and everything. And it kind of feels a bit damned now, but I'm still going to leave it there if people want to have a read of it. Is Richard Tice, he's been around the media and whatnot, but it's shown explicitly that he's a stooge for Nigel Farage, really, really is, and it just got pushed to the curb, really, pretty much on this. Is he going to be able to win his seat? I was skeptical before, even with Nigel Farage, and I'm still skeptical now. I think if they do win a seat, Nigel Farage is probably their best chance of doing so. But it's still going to be very difficult for him to do so as well. Certainly it will improve reform's prospects. I will give them a highly competent, highly experienced, strong messenger in Nigel Farage to go out not just in Clacton but around the rest of the country to try and deliver that Reform UK message. Yeah, the whole campaign, the whole Reform Now campaign is pretty much their voice relies solely on Nigel Farage. And while I generally believe that this is the guy who BS'd a lot of people during the Brexit referendum, and he did lie and made promises that he did not keep during his time as the Brexit leader, and people obviously have short memories of what Nigel Farage has said in the past. He will win over voters. He still appeals to people because he's always sitting on the outside of politics. Well, if he's sitting inside politics, then the pressure is on him to actually do something, because he will no longer be able to sit. If he becomes an MP, he can't just sit on the outside. He won't be able to simply complain and moan about things anymore. He will be in Parliament. He will have a duty to the people of Clacton-on-Sea to deliver for them. He will have to show. Therefore, all the tough talking, all the talk and rhetoric that he does, he now has to back it up. He has to show it if he becomes a politician, becomes an MP. He has to show it. Yeah, he talks a lot. He does a lot of talking, but he needs to now. If he becomes an MP, he now needs to show it. All these people saying they wanted Nigel Farage as PM, Nigel Farage for president, or whatever. Well, if he becomes an MP, we will judge him on his actions, because he's been sitting on the outside moaning and complaining about things. Well, let's see how he does in the House, because that's where he should be judged, not by what his words are, but by his actions, and that's where he should be judged. Because it's easy for people like myself and others to simply sit on the outside and say things, but if you actually go in there, it's a very different kettle of fish, and I like to see him in there. Let's see what he actually does. Yeah, I don't want to hear excuses from Nigel. Yeah, let's actually, if he wins that seat, if he goes into Parliament, let's see what he actually does. Let's see what he does for the people of Clacton. Let's see what changes that he makes. That's the thing that we want to. That's the thing. If people keep bigging him up and all that, let's see it from him. Let's see what he does. Because if he doesn't back it up, then it makes everybody who supports him look like fools. It really, really does. I don't want to hear him talk the talk. I want to hear him talking. I want to see him to show it. Before Mr. Farage's announcement, YouGov predicted that no seats would be won by Reform. Despite 300 candidates throwing their hat in the ring, any Reform win is still far from certain. The seats to watch are those where Reform is fielding its heavy hitters, according to Mr. English. He said, for Reform success, we're looking at Clacton, we're looking at Ashfield, because Lee Anderson is standing trying to defend his seat as a defector. We're looking at Boston and Skegness, where Richard Tice is standing. Of course, Lee Anderson. If Lee Anderson holds on to his seat, again, that would, I think Nigel Farage's boot is a big boost for Lee Anderson's seat as well. Reform would not win any seats under YouGov's Farage's predictions. Nigel Farage must close a 22-point gap with the Tories to win in Clacton, while Richard Tice was projected at 15 points behind Labour in Ashfield. So this map here obviously shows the seats, the percent. So it's in terms of percentage from 15 to 25% of their chances of winning there. So you can see Clacton, there is a 22% projected margin behind the Conservatives there. West Sussex, the Reform candidate Raymond Leon is 22% there. He would need to do there. Great Yarmouth, Rupert Lowell is 19% margin behind Labour there. Boston and Skye, Richard Tice there, if he was to 23% behind there, if to turn that one over. Ashfield 15%, so the gap is a lot closer, but let's remember he switched from Conservative to Reform. So are those same Conservatives who voted for Lee Anderson, are they going to stick to Lee Anderson even though he's now part of Reform? That's going to be a big question. That really will be a big question there. Another one here, Amber Valley, 21%. Alex Stevenson there, the Reform candidate. Hereford and South Hertfordshire there, Nigel Ellie, 20% margin there. This is in Wales. Obviously, Cato Philidum, 20% there, Bernard Holden there. Bridgewater there. No reform candidate hasn't been decided there, but the projected margin is 18% there. Frome East Somerset, David Swan, 20% their projection. Exmouth and Exeter East, 18% there. Gary Sutherland there. And South Dorset there, the candidate hasn't been decided, but there's 21% there. Both Isles of Wight are both 19% respectively. Ian Pickington and Sarah Morris, both East and West there. There is also down at the bottom, Bonham-Regis and Littlehampton, Sarah Danielson at 22% there. And then finally, Folkestone and Hyde, William Wright there at 19%. So these are some of the seats, obviously, that they believe. So it says here that YouGov's MRP data was released on June the 3rd before Nigel Farage's announcement that he would run as an MP in Clacton and had become head of Reform UK. Margins calculated by independence analysis here. So this is what the analysis of independence has stated here. And this source is from the YouGov June MRP data here. So from those numbers, guys. So interesting stuff there. YouGov's polling analysis on Monday suggested that Reform had a margin of 15 points or more to close the gap on its top constituencies, even in Ashfield, where former Tory MP Mr Anderson hopes to retain his seat. In Clacton, Reform was 22 points behind the Conservatives, but this gap is expected to close considerably, with Mr Farage replacing Tony Max as the candidate. Clacton was the only seat ever won by UKIP, Nigel Farage's former party, when it was retained in 2015 by Tory defector Douglas Carswell. In 2019, it was gained for the Conservatives by former actor Giles Wadling. Then he's had quite a... back in 2019, he gained quite a massive majority, he did. In addition, Mr English suggested keeping an eye on seats in South Yorkshire, where Reform might find success among previous UKIP and Brexit voters. We're also looking up Barnsley and Doncaster, said Mr English. There are a couple of seats where the Brexit Party did very well in 2019, but I think Reform UK could potentially be very strong there as well. He added, it's important to maintain the distinction between UKIP and Reform. One thing that is very prominent is, of course, Nigel Farage is no longer talking about Brexit, and that was UKIP's sole purpose. The switch has now gone to focusing on immigration and British cultural values. It is a different party, but has a lot of supporters, and all of its base will be very similar. Yeah, you have to remember, there are one or two Remain voters who may be switching to Reform as well, who were Conservatives. We also have to bear that in mind, because this is not about Brexit. This is about the main topic that Reform are riding on is on immigration. Because the argument that they will say is that the Conservative Party did not do enough for immigration. And Labour will not do enough either. You cannot trust Labour to do so. So vote for us instead. This is the message that they are putting to people. So this piece here, this is constituencies where Reform has the highest vote share and the lowest margins to overcome in from YouGov here. So there's 2 pages of this. We'll have a quick gander here, guys. I'll just highlight here at the bottom before we read into it. YouGov's MRP poll uses data from almost 60,000 respondents, combined with characteristic predictions on local variables. The analysis was performed before Nigel Farage announced that he would run as a candidate. So that's very important to highlight here. So you have some of the seats here, so from Ashfield all the way down to Hereford and Hertfordshire there. Projected vote share to win by Reform there, 20, 15, 15, 18, 19, 13, 14, 15, 16 respectively, their numbers. The gaps from projected wins, which we looked at, so 15, 18% there. You can see some of the numbers there. And then it has current projected winners. This was obviously stressed before Nigel Farage, so most projections are predicting Labour there. So four Conservatives were predicted, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 Labour ones there. And obviously, we've already looked at some of the candidates there, but we can go obviously the second page there. You can see the other lot here as well. A lot of these projected winners obviously are projected to be a Conservative or Labour, but now obviously the Clacton one obviously is going to be very interesting to say the least. There, some interesting numbers there to look at, to say the least. So if you want to pause and have a quick look, you can do, but again, the link for it is going to be in the description down below. Interesting numbers, interesting statistics. Obviously, it'll be fascinating to see when the MRP and YouGov update it with Nigel Farage's announcement and see what it comes to now. But it is still fascinating to say the least that they believe that Reform could win as many as 4 seats. I am starting to lean. The fact that this is coming from YouGov, and YouGov is one of the most reliable, more reliable polls. Does this mean they're always right? No, but I do think that if YouGov continue to keep saying all the way in the run up to this general election that Reform are going, that Nigel Farage is going to win that seat, I'm more inclined to agree with them, and they could potentially, and I say potentially, they could potentially become the new right wing party replacing the Conservatives. It's entirely possible for that to happen. Obviously, we don't have proportional representation, so the proportion is not really fair with our first past the post system, which is why we need to change the electoral system as it is, and not for the not in my opinion for the benefit of Reform, but for the benefit of all parties, because people's voices are not fairly given a fair voice with the system that we have in place right now. But he will be around non-stop. We will hear him all the time, guys. Don't get me wrong. I will of course be talking about him on live streams as well, but I'm not going to be covering. Farage every single day. I will cover. I'm sure I'll cover at least one. I wouldn't be surprised if I cover at least one story on Nigel Farage on live streams. To be fair, but this obviously, like many YouTubers will say, this will not be the last time we've spoken of him. But I've said this, guys. He's a grifter. He does a lot of talking, but he doesn't provide any action. He doesn't provide any solidness. And until he goes into Parliament, yeah, he can talk all he wants, but until he goes into Parliament, yeah, we need to see it from him. He has said a lot of things and has changed his mind on a lot of things as well. The guy gives you a bit of truth, but tells you a lot of lies too. So remember, this is the same guy that told the British fishing industry that leaving the EU would be good for them as well. You know, people really forget about things that Nigel Farage has said in the past as well. But you know, people want to say, oh, it's the EU's fault, oh, it's the Conservatives' fault, oh, it's always someone else's fault. Nigel Farage is completely and totally innocent in all this. Well, let's put him in as an MP then. Tell the people of Clacton to put him in as an MP, and let's put his money where his mouth is. Let's see him make a difference, because that's really what we want. You know, if you really generally believe in Nigel Farage, if you generally believe in Reform UK, go and vote for them. Let's put them in Parliament. Let's see what they can do then, because you know, it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of talking from them. But I personally don't trust Reform. I don't trust Nigel Farage. He's lied on many occasions. But I know obviously some subscribers of mine are big fans of him and are big fans of Reform UK. But if you want to put your vote behind them, that's entirely your choice. But me personally, I don't trust them. Not to mention they're not even a real party as well. You didn't know that they're actually just they fund themselves, by the way. You have their own money, you know, they're all like private school, educated and all that kind of stuff. They're not average ordinary people. You do know that, right? Oh, you didn't know that. Oh, okay. Well, let me know what you guys honestly think about this. What do you guys think of the YouGov poll? What do you guys what you think of YouGov are saying about this? Do you actually think Reform will gain some seats? Do you think Farage will get that Clacton seat? Let me know your thoughts and more about all of this in the comments section down below. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope to catch you all very, very soon.